what you will see is you'll start to understand, if you take this perspective, quite a lot of, first of all, Lucifer's attitude, because this is about Lucifer setting himself free to create his kingdom of heaven, and also the attitude towards a lot of these very, very strange things going on, such as this idea of the fourth industrial revolution. A lot of people are worried about what's going on there, but you can imagine it in that type of sense. History is a chaotic process right now, and there's this jostling and wrestling for power to create a new ascendancy, like the Germans did. They wrestled to the top of the fall of Rome. And then once that is achieved, these people are going to have to sit down and put in place a new sort of church, a new enlightened church. It's the new Ion's church. And so the idea with this is the fourth industrial revolution is going to be a tech church. It's going to be this situation where you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will be like pure socialism, because that's actually what the church was in a way. It was socialist. It was something that, protected the peasants from the kings. It took care of them in that regard. And so this new church is going to probably give everybody universal basic income, so no one has to work. And then everybody can run around and take pleasure in whatever they're doing. And there'll probably be jobs of some sort that will be adapted to whatever the farmers need at that point. And then that will be the sort of game. And it will be like Brave New World. Everybody will take soma, they'll take drugs. That's all everywhere nowadays. And everybody will be happy and everybody will feel good. And it's a sort of win-win. And you think, like, obviously that can sound scary in some ways, but a lot of people would want something like that. A lot of people don't want to have to strive to become a king. They don't care. Like, I don't want to do that. I just want to chill. I just want to sit around and chill. And so when you offer them this deal, they're like, yeah, man. Yeah, I'll chill. Like, if you pay me to chill, like, I'll definitely do that 100%. And so you basically bribe them, you pay them off. You say, all right, here's a deal. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. And then Jeff Bezos is free to see his destiny, see through his destiny. And why is this a big deal? Well, obviously there's a chilling fear among the rulers of revolution. The French Revolution is very frightening to them, because they pull down everything that protected these kings, and they cut their feckin' heads off and destroyed them and ripped their society apart. And so at any moment there could be this snap and everybody just runs to Wall Street and like pulls people's legs off. And that's really, really scary. Jeff Bezos is like, I don't want anybody to come and pull my legs off. That's terrifying. So what he has to do is create this kind of game. And it's like, all right, well, I give you everything. I've claimed so much. I'll give you everything. You just leave me alone and let me go and fly to space or something like that. And then when that's achieved, when people are like, all right, I'll take all that stuff, Jeff Bezos takes and tries all this new technology. He tries this life extension stuff. He tries this augmented bodies and all this type of thing. And he becomes like Iron Man. He flies off into space. He becomes a space god. He becomes a transhuman. He becomes an Ubermensch. And you can imagine there'll be a lot of different people around the world who will do this, that they'll, get enough money to become the Ubermensch. They'll life extend. They'll sail off into the atmosphere. They'll overcome everything. They'll actually take off as nearly like a new species, like the way the monkeys and the humans, there was this dovetail, this bottleneck, and the monkeys stayed in the jungle and the humans split out and went off into human history. Maybe this is another bottleneck. Maybe this is Lucifer shooting off and going off and doing his own thing, absolutely. And he's trying to put in place something that allows him to hold back. And this actually is very scary because it puts a lot of gravity towards laziness and procrastination, because Jeff Bezos only 30 years ago was a broke dude selling books, but now he's on course at a crucial time in history to be king of the world. Like, he's in a good place. And this makes you understand the seriousness of the stakes and the meaning of postmodernism. People talk about postmodernism and crises and all this stuff and intellectual, and they're soothsaying. They're leading you away from what really matters. This whole postmodern thing is a chaos where everything is going to compound, like Nietzsche says, into this big mob of like homogenized mess. And people's instincts are just not going to make sense. And out of this will rise an order of some sort. It has to. And you have to ask yourself, like, where am I going to sit within this? Because then this usually evokes a visceral reaction in people. What do I choose, Lucifer or Christ? Because when you go through this chaos, you see these people who are trying to enlighten, try to liberate, these Luciferian people, and they're trying to charge off and become transhuman space gods like Jeff Bezos. And they're not Christian. They're trying to let their will absolutely shoot them forward. And this is scary because in some sense their embracing of this idea is actually almost like they're teaming up with the Antichrist. And it doesn't, like, right now, like, maybe the promise is that one day the life extension stuff will come and they'll be saved. But it's not really here right now. And so a lot of them are like really scared. It's like, it's scary. It's like, all right, it's almost like they're caught up in this false promise, and I wonder, will it come true? And will they push it right to the very end? And then Jesus will come down and be like, fucking idiots, I told you. And like, gets rid of all these new kings and then puts you back down and puts, rewards all the Christians of all people. It's like, oh, the Christians were right. Are you serious? And then all the tech people like lose all their stuff. And the Christians are like, yes. Suck on that one, Jeff. And then Jeff's like, no. God comes down and takes all his stuff off and be like, I got your stuff, Jeff. I made this stuff, so it's actually mine originally. And then there's like this big tantrum and all this type of stuff. And so you can see this sort of anxiety. It's like, well, do I have to be careful? Should I side with Christ? Should I go with the literatures, the revelations and all that, and be like, it's been prophesized, I must stick with God on this one? Or do I look at this from the Nietzschean, Luciferian perspective, the Enlightenment perspective? Is this a natural historical process? And I'd be foolish to get on board with the Christians at the change of the ion, where I'll get left behind and subsumed into some type of slave caste, which, as these things tend to do, will last for 1,000 years without any social mobility. And maybe all this talk of freedom and all that and equality is just sort of like something that you say to people to keep them to be quiet until the power is put into place to hold this new order together of some sort, this new church together. And I think this becomes even scarier the more you think about it, the more you see how much they clash. From on the one hand, you look at Christ and Revelations, as I said, if you don't choose Christ, you end up in hell. And then you have these challenges. It's like, well, if I don't choose Christ, I end up in hell. But then it's like, is Christianity strong enough? Does it look strong enough to actually pose a proper war against this? And then you look at Lucifer, and it's like, it looks like he's on the up, he's on the ascendant, he's the one who's going to win. And so should I go along with that? But then will I be included? Maybe I'll get on board with Lucifer and I'll be like, I'll be one of the tech people, yeah? I'll be one of the winners. Jeff, yeah, Jeff, DM me, Jeff. Jeff never DMs. And then what happens is I end up a part of the peasant class anyway. But I've lost my dignity then at this point. And then I'm actually subsumed into the Antichrist, the Lucifer's conglomerate AI machine, and I'm brainwashed, and I'm, got all this stuff inside of me, and I'm like eating bugs and stuff like this. And that's scary. And is that what's going on? I end up in an evil dystopia. And maybe I should look at it and be like, what if this does turn out to be an evil dystopia? Just like the French Revolution ended in the Reign of Terror, the Communist Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution ended in the horror for the Russians. Why would this be any different? Lucifer often makes these promises but ends in pandemonium because he violates natural law. He doesn't get this stuff right. Should I be aware of that? Should I be conscious of that? Is that the stakes of what I'm trying to do? And how is these two things are juxtaposed, pulling apart my tender little Irish soul? Which side do I choose? Which one do I go for? Which one do I hedge my bets on? Am I all in on which? Which crypto coin is going to take me where? Christ coin or Lucifer coin? It's a big, big question. And this war in the sky on the 21st between Lucifer and Saturn, is this a sort of symbolic representation of that? And do I have to watch with a telescope to see, does one of them blow up or something like that? Or which one cuckolds which and be like, that's it, this is which one's going forward?